everyone, it's Onod here, and today I'm going to be painting this Viking Shieldmaiden. It's a 3D print by the sculptor Ian Lovecraft that I picked up off of Etsy. I decided to pick this mini up because I thought she just looked really cool, but also because I really like the concept of shield maidens. I'm really into Lord of the Rings, as you probably realised if you watched the channel before, and Eowyn is a really cool character. She disguises herself as a Dernhelm, and then she ends up managing to kill the Witch King at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields with the help of Merry. And this is always a kind of really impressive moment, both in the books and the films, and it's something that I've always really liked. And of course, Tolkien was very heavily inspired by Anglo-Saxon Norse mythology when he was creating Middle-earth. This concept of these female warriors is very prevalent in the epics of the Anglo-Saxons and Vikings. They also had things like the Valkyries, of course, guiding souls to Valhalla, these kind of all-female mythological kind of creatures that were able to do that too. Something, though, that I'm interested in and have been just doing a little bit of research in, though, is how historical were warrior women in the time of the Vikings. This is a question which historians haven't really got a concrete answer for. Obviously, women have fought in wars throughout human history, so lots of famous examples off the top of my head, things like the Soviet army in World War II recruiting women into the army, and they actually saw active combat, so a lot of women were used to act in the role of snipers. Joan of Arc, of course, the Hundred Years' War, really famous example. There's also examples that I've read about in the past of women who disguise themselves as men and then have fought in things like the English Civil War, French Revolutionary Wars, and so on and so on. Because basically, once they look like a man, no one really knew the difference, and they were able to fight in those conflicts. On balance, then, I think the answer is probably yes. Women, or at least a few women, would have definitely fought in the Viking Age. And certainly, if you're thinking about defending your homes, then it would have made sense for all available kind of adults to be able to do that. I think the more interesting question then is, did shield maidens, i.e. women who were trained as warriors and then regularly fought in the battles and raids, were they a common thing? And that is perhaps where the more trickier kind of historical question lies. Our best evidence, of course, for this time period, which is often called the Dark Ages, although that's becoming less sort of popular as a concept. The kind of early Middle Ages would perhaps be a better way of putting it. But our main source is probably archaeology. We have found graves of women that could possibly be warriors. So one of the most famous is called the Birka female Viking warrior. And the reason why it's suspected that she might have been a warrior is because she was found with a sword and an axe in her grave. And of course, this would be a fairly reasonable conclusion that she would have been buried with things she used in life. It's difficult to prove, though. And the reason for this, though, is, of course, that it could be ceremonial or it could be part of a burial ritual that isn't understood now. So people, for example, in ancient Greece were buried with coins, or when they were cremated, they had coins with them so that they could pay the ferryman. So there might have been a sort of ceremonial reason in the Viking era as well as to why you might want weapons with you as you go into the afterlife, even if you didn't use them in life itself. So it's difficult to actually prove with these burial sites that they were definitely used. What we do also have, though, is a few written chronicles that exist which mention female warriors. But again, very difficult to prove with sort of concrete certainty that this is definitely the case. So if a writer, for example, is writing in the Byzantine Empire about a far-off people and he has heard that women fight, that's not necessarily something which he has an eyewitness for. And so it's very difficult to therefore understand whether that's somebody reporting the mythology. Maybe they've heard about the Valkyries in mythology and they've assumed, because they don't know the context, that that was a historical and actual thing. And all of this gets blended together. So it's very difficult to actually prove this with any certainty, hence why historians still are looking at it and trying to work it out. we're probably unlikely to ever know with complete certainty then exactly whether shield maidens did exist. I, though, think based on the evidence that it would be more reasonable to lean towards that some Viking women were warriors, even if it wasn't, the most common thing. Having a warrior society, they're sort of pre-Christianity, so they don't have all of the kind of assumptions that came along with that, as to kind of roles and things that we can kind of might have considered in Western Europe to be the norm. And then obviously having certain evidence in the archaeology and what written sources we do have, it does seem on the balance of probability that there were some women fighting alongside the Viking men in battles at some point. In terms of painting up a warrior, which you see me do in the background whilst I've been rambling on, I just kind of think it's cool just to have a bit of kind of variety, and you can get some cool sculpts to add to the force. Just means that the Vikings, which I'm kind of slowly building up. So the way that I'm going about my Viking forces, I'm basically just when I see a sculpt I like, I tend to pick it up and paint it. So I'm not really aiming to build like an army or anything. It's more just an opportunity to do something a bit different, something which I haven't done necessarily in my other painting. So here then is the finished Shield Maiden. I ended up just adjusting a few things like her eyes off camera, so I just carefully kind of dotted in the whites of the eyes just to sort of get the effect, and then just tied it up with a neutral brown to merge in with the shading of the skin. Gave the shield a little freehand. Wasn't the best thing ever. Freehanding is definitely something I'm trying to work on, but we'll see as I get better. I might end up using some transfers on future ones as well, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you've enjoyed, and I will catch you next time.